Well, welcome everybody. It is so great to have you join us for our very first town hall for runners during this very special period. And there will be others joining us, of course. So I'm going to take this first few minutes to tell a couple of stories. That's my favorite thing to do. The first story, and actually both of these relate to the fact that when we have a challenging situation in our history, whether it be personal or for our whole society, it often gives people a chance to look at things from a wider perspective and maybe make some changes and possibly see that they can do things better in different ways. And I want to tell you a couple of stories there. One of them is about myself, but the first one is about a person that I have gotten to know who worked for the Wall Street Journal when the Twin Towers went down. And she was right there when the towers were going down, was able to get out, but there was no cell service and there was no transportation. And she had a 7.5 mile trek to get to her apartment in Brooklyn. Well, she admitted that she had been a cross country runner in high school, but that had been 12, 13 years before that. And since that time, she really had not exercised. So as she made her trek 3 and 4 miles, with the smoke everywhere and all types of challenges, roadblocks, the whole bit, she just felt like she couldn't do it. She just was so exhausted and so stressed. And so as she crossed the Brooklyn Bridge, she looked up to the heaven and she said, "God, if you get me through this, I promise I'm going to get in better shape." And she did. And not only that, but she has become a fitness and health writer for the New York Times and is helping a lot of other people in that whole area. The other story is about myself, and it's about a time in my life when I thought I was on a track for my career. I had graduated from graduate school at Florida State and had gone immediately out to Vail, Colorado to train for the Olympic trials. I was out at altitude for 2 months. I really did not believe that I had a chance to make the Olympic team, but I was going to give it every possible shot that I could. So when I came out of my training, I had a series of events that happened to me that not only were totally unexpected, but they really were not really expected for just about anybody who runs. But I hit the jackpot and I made the Olympic team very unexpectedly. Well, Munich was just amazing. It was just an amazing experience for me. And being connected with all these world-class athletes, and they became friends of mine, and we did all these things together, and it was just so uplifting. And I went from Munich to going right back into classroom teaching, where I could not go away to events anymore. I couldn't even work out with folks at a track because my schedule would not allow that. And so I went from this totally involved, wonderful running situation, both socially and for my own training experience, to being locked down. And for 8 months, I had almost no competition. And I almost gave up on being competitive that year as a result of that. And I got depressed a number of times. But what kept me focused is I did every single one of my workouts, 10 miles in the morning, 10 miles in the afternoon. And I clicked them off. I made sure that even though I didn't feel like running, I would go out there for at least 30 minutes because that's when the positive hormones come in that settle your apprehensions down. And sure enough, after 30 minutes, I would do the whole workout. I didn't give up on a couple of goals. I was given permission to go to the Boston Marathon. And even though my workouts were not showing that I had much potential to do very well there, I ran fifth, and it totally surprised me. It sort of reset my expectations. I was given an invite right after Boston to go to the national championships. And again, my workouts were showing that I was not going to be competitive on the track, but I didn't give up. I got in the race, and as it happened in the Olympic trials, I went from around last place to third to last place for the first 4 miles, and worked my way up at that point and ended up finishing second and being on the US national team, running all over the world. And during that summer, because of the total disruption in my running leading up to that, and then the chance on that tour of 8.5 weeks to talk with others and to get a different perspective on what I wanted to do, that's when I came up with what my mission is to this day, and that is to help others improve the quality of their lives through running and fitness in general. And so, you know, the lesson that I learned from that was focus not on what may happen to you or what's going on around you, but on what you're going to do about it. And I will get into a number of suggestions here, but we're going to open this up to questions because I really want to get to your questions. First, I want to introduce the key people on my team. I know a lot of you out there see Barb and I at events, and you may suppose that we do all of this ourselves. No, that is not the case. So just going down, first of all, my family members. Barb is finishing up her run right now, but she will be in a little bit. Brennan Galloway is the producer of this show, and he and his wife, Jenny, are key supporters, and our grandson, Tegan, and they're here in Atlanta. Weston and Carissa Galloway are here, and Weston is a shoe design expert. He also is doing some cinematography work now. And Carissa is a registered dietitian and will be doing some classes for us. We'll be announcing those within the next week or two, some specialized classes on nutrition, hour long, and you can get individual information that in these classes. I also want to introduce Michelle Langevin. Michelle, wave your hand. Michelle is the Chief Operating Officer of my company. She is amazing. She is the one that organizes most of what we do and then gets the team behind doing that. Thank you, Michelle. Kelsey is her key support person and is also amazing. The two of them really do so much. Along with that is Susan Kolbinski. A lot of you who go to Tahoe and some of the retreats know Susan and have worked with her on that. But she does a whole lot more than that and fills in the gaps. And thank you, Susan. Sloan Ware is our general manager for our Fidipides stores. And we are, of course, incredibly stressed right now. There will be a whole lot of stores going out of business, and they've already started. Well, we do not plan to be one of those, and we are working our butts off to make that happen, but we're stepping up, and due to Brennan's technical skills, we have an online capability now. So if you are not able to get your shoes, please do not go to Amazon. Please come to us because we can help you. We've got autographed books we can ship out, timers, BFFs, shoes, clothing. Anyway, Sloan is the man for the store, along with Brennan. Moving right along, Chris Twiggs. Chris, you may or may not know, it heads up our PACER efforts, which take place at the Run Disney events at our Jeff Galloway Northside Half Marathon, and other events around the country. He also heads up our Galloway customized training. So if you're looking for a very affordable form of individualized training with chat rooms for questions, you can do that from our website. And Chris is also our Chief Training Officer for all of our Galloway training programs. We have a number of our program directors from our Galloway training groups around the country. I'm pretty sure that Ron Wahula from Raleigh, our biggest program, will be listening in. I'm sure Al and Anna Myers from Sonoma County, California will be in. I'm sure that Sherry Whitt from Ventura, California, Hillary Topper from the Long Island Galloway program. We have 2 programs in New York, which of course are under all types of stresses right now. Joel is the key point in our New York City program. And we really wish all of those folks health and safety and all the things that are going on. And there's just a whole host of people. I'm sure Dennis Hopper from Jacksonville, and I'll bet that Gila from Tel Aviv, our program in Tel Aviv, will be listening in. From United Kingdom, we have 3 people. Jane Jones is our ambassador over there, is doing a good job of getting out the word and bringing people in to our method and the Galloway training in general. In addition to that, Leslie Neal, whose nickname is Nell, is working on the possibility of Galloway training programs over in the United Kingdom. Very excited about that when we can fly again. And Emma Talbot heads up the Girls That Jeff program, a social network of over 15,000 folks, and they're mainly in the UK, but they are also widely distributed all around the world. Kevin Gwynn is here. I don't see Kevin's face, but Kevin, he's on the chat. Kevin is amazing. He puts out the Galloway Extra Mile podcast, and you can download these. They are great company to take with you on long runs or any run when otherwise you might be bored. You won't be bored with Kevin's work on that podcast. Moving on to Kelly Tinney. Kelly is our social media person. She coordinates our social media. Diana Twiggs is here. Diana is today our official medical consultant. If you have medical questions, because I'm not going to get into that. We have Amy Goddard. I'm sure she said she would be coming in. And Amy, I hope you didn't have to run through snow this morning, Amy, but Amy is a physical therapist and is also an expert in a number of related areas. She comes to our Tahoe camp and does a number of sessions there, and she will be doing a session on my strengthening class, the 1-hour strengthening class that is coming up next month. She's going to be a guest on that. A shout out to Dave Hannaford. Dave and I wrote the book Running Injuries, Care and Prevention. And Dave comes to Tahoe camp and takes care of our feet and legs there. Also need to give a shout out to Ruth Parker, who is usually my main medical consultant on a whole lot of things. Ruth is just super. Another shout out to the Run Disney folks, especially John Hughes. John has been the race director since the beginning in 1994. He has retired from that specific role, but he still is quite active in racing and in a lot of other areas. Bill Rogers, shout out to Bill, my college teammate at Wesleyan University, another college teammate, Amby Burfoot, also my roommate. Brad Washabaugh, sure he is watching. Our security chief, Wayne Mock, just a super person and the very best person I could ever have for our security issues on our events and whenever we need to, particularly in times like these. And finally, Joe Henderson. I don't know whether Joe's watching. He has had a setback with a stroke, but he is getting around. He's making his way back, and we wish the best for Joe. So on with the show now, and the purpose and the mission today, and Barb just came in. So Barb, can you come over and say hi to everybody?
Hi.
So
I hope everybody's having a great day.
Barb and I celebrated our 44th yesterday, and that is my shining achievement in life. I just can't say enough good things and wonderful things about this woman right here. I'm so lucky, so lucky.
Just on the ride.
So the main mission today is, first of all, goal one is to support one another, to come together in times like this when we can support one another. Second, I hope to provide motivation, and others here can help others with motivation. I also want to help connect you with resources like Fidipides and like Chris Twiggs and Diana and all of our various programs that we have. And then the other major mission is to give you direct answers to key problems, which you're going to do in just a very few minutes here. So in these times of stress, we need running more than ever, but it's a fact that a lot of people drop a lot of their running because of the stress. They let the stress get them down. And I'll tell you in the next segment why this is. But the bottom line is there are obstacles. I mean, running areas, a lot of running areas are closed. All of our parks here in Atlanta are closed for running. You can't run with friends. Races are canceled. It's an unsettling time in general. And we just aren't getting our mental benefits when we need it most. But that can change if you will just move your feet, even if it's at home. Of course, there are some other side things that you're missing. We're not getting our medal count to increase. My gosh, we've got to get back to that. And those who are 50 staters feel like they're getting behind. Well, you can make it up. So we know that running bestows a number of fairly unique benefits, at least the degree to which running gives you these benefits. We know that running turns on the good attitude circuit better than anything else that's been studied. It also turns on the vitality circuit, the empowerment circuit, better than anything else that's been studied. And also for stress relief, it's very well documented by research that after 30 minutes on an aerobic run, your brain, when you're stressed, starts releasing calming hormones, norepinephrine, melatonin, serotonin. And so stay out there for 30 minutes, folks, even if it means walking the rest of the way. And you'll get those good doses of those calming hormones. And what's going on here that can give you control over your motivation? And I'll talk more about this tomorrow in my 1-hour class on motivation that's going to be at 3 p.m. And if you're interested, you can go to our website and sign on for this. Love to have you. But what's going on, we have two brain components, and we choose which one we're going to activate. They're both brain operating systems, and they work independently. We have the ancient emotional brain, and then we have the human brain. Most runners, especially when they're stressed, they just put one foot in front of the other when they run, and they allow the ancient emotional brain to be in control. Well, as the stress rises, what happens is the emotional brain starts secreting anxiety hormones and negative hormones. Now, if you have a strategy, and I'll be talking more about the strategies as we go into the questions and in a minute or two. But if you have a strategy for that day, you can get your feet moving. You can have the amount of running and walking that works for you. You can find the right strategy in pacing. You can focus on your next goal, even if it's a virtual or even if it's just a distance that you want to cover. And you can focus on staying out there for 30 minutes so that you get those calming hormones. The other major thing that's going to help you is connecting with support. So even if you only have one friend that you have as your lifeline, and so make a deal with this friend that when you're having issues, you want to get in touch and you want to help one another, and you will pull one another along. And finally, bring other people into running. This is a great opportunity right now because it has been documented that the general populace has started going out more, because running and walking are two of the things that are recommended by CDC and other groups. And we want to keep these people out there. It's shown that running and walking help raise your immunity. And that there was an article that Michelle just sent to me this morning about how fitness will allow you to raise your immunity to withstand, and you'll tend to withstand the dangerous part of the coronavirus type thing should you get that, and you're more likely to survive. And finally, other studies are showing that one of the major risks of the coronavirus, serious issues, is obesity. And so, of course, fitness helps you stay away from that. So now for the resources, and then we're going to get right into questions. And we have a number of them that have already been given to us. First of all, coaching. We have 2 coaching opportunities, my e-coaching by email and Chris Twiggs. And we have freed up spaces for those. So go to our website, jeffgalloway.com, and you can see the coaching opportunities there. We want to help you. And this is a chance to be motivated with a coach and with a high rate of success for what you want to do. We have running schools. Normally they're held in a location with people in a classroom, but of course things have changed. We have virtual running schools. They're 3 hours and they cover everything that you can possibly think about just about in running. And the next one is going to be on the 2nd of May. So go to our website and find out about it. I'd love to see you, see your smiling face on the 2nd of May. These are very motivating. And we've just initiated some 60-minute classes that will begin tomorrow at 3 p.m. with motivation. These are 30 minutes of content, and then any questions and answers that you have. The other topics, which will be done twice a week, are setting up a training program, better form, strength for endurance, running and walking, and then we will see what the demand is and go on from there. So Brennan, we have the second session is on Thursday, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Sundays and Thursdays.
And Thursday, what is the time frame? 8:30 in the evening, Eastern time. Okay, good. So it's 3 o'clock on Sunday and 8:30 Eastern time. Both are Eastern times. And again, Sloan with Phidippides is really stepping up to get the shoes and the products that you need. So your shoes are wearing out, go to phidippides.com. They can really help you there. So my summary statement then, before we go on to questions, is to go through three things rather, that I found productive when I got in the dumps right after the Olympics during that year. Don't give up. Do every workout and walk when you need to. And get out there for 30 minutes. It's pretty simple, but those three things are going to at least keep your shape the way it is right now. And even if you have to run and walk in your home, I do a lot of that when the weather is bad. I actually do runs every 30 minutes in my home. I have a timer that goes off so that I don't sit for 5 or 6 hours, and it invigorates my day to do that. So I want you to know that I want to help you. So please do not be bashful. Go to jeffgalloway.com for any follow-up questions after this session. So now we are on to the questions, and I will provide answers along with our great staff here. So what do we have coming in? Do we have any?
Masks, questions about how, if you're forced to wear a mask during a run, and you can repeat the question on that.
Okay. First question concerns wearing a mask during a run. Now, Diana can weigh in on this, but just let me tell you that a mask doesn't have to put you into oxygen debt. And if you're in a situation where you need to be protected, then the mask is appropriate. But in terms of running and wearing a mask, Diana, what is your advice?
Well, I think it depends a lot on a ton of circumstances. We hear this 6-foot window, but that does not take into account wind, air, sneezing, all that sort of thing. So I have to say, I ran this morning, I did a virtual half and did not wear a mask, but I was running in an area with very few people. And every time I came across someone, I thought, yeah, I might need to rethink this mask thing. So if your local area advises that you wear a mask, you should certainly have one with you. Does it help? I think that's one of those things that we don't really know. It's probably not going to hurt. Does it help? I think the distancing is the main thing. One thing that I was considering for the next run is something like a buff to have down, not on my mouth when there's nobody around me, but if somebody's coming up, put it up a little bit. Because what we found ourselves doing is you're coming up on somebody on the sidewalk and both of you kind of move to the side so that, or someone's in the bike lane and, so that you're at least 6 feet. Should you run with a mask? I think it can't hurt, but if you just feel like you can't do it, or you're claustrophobic, or you're, it's getting hot and you're just going to die with that mask around you, I think it's reasonable to have one with you, maybe take it on and off. I have to admit, I have not yet done it, but I may be on team mask soon.
Well, and you can weigh in on this too, Diana, but I'm supposing that once things open up again, there are probably going to be a lot of requirements for wearing masks. So we ought to be at least prepared for that when we start going out again.
I kind of like the buff idea because you can go on and off. Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah. So Brennan, what's next?
So is there any mask that anybody has found that works better than others?
Anybody have any suggestions? Now, Barb actually spent the better part of today making masks. And so do you want to weigh in on that, Barb?
Just a second, I'll go get 'em.
Yeah, she's going to go and get those. But Diana, do you have anything to say about masks?
Yeah, so a cloth mask is not necessarily going to protect you from close. It will not protect you from close-up viral particles. It's not going to be sealed around the side. It's just cloth. Even if you put a filter in it, small viral particles can still get through that. It is better than nothing, but a traditional surgical mask is not going to keep anything from coming in. It'll keep things from going out. So the idea is if enough people are wearing them, people that are asymptomatic may not be spreading as much. The N95 mask is the only one that's going to really keep it in if it's sealed properly. But running in that, I can't imagine. I would just sooner not. But is a mask, is one better than the other? Cloth masks, again, I don't think there are any good studies verifying this. But if you put a filter in it of some sort, people are using coffee filters or all other kinds of things. It's probably better than nothing. There are some hospitals starting to repurpose that blue sterile surgical wrapping that really never gets touched. Once it gets opened, it gets discarded. They're starting to fashion those into masks, and they have some pretty potential good benefit there. But the only real cloth mask study has been so-so and very small. So we don't really can't really say one's better than the other. But I like the idea of inserting the filter in a pocket if you can.
Very good. So Barb is going to show off her designs here.
I did a little research, and there is a pretty nice article from a guy in Japan, an aeronautical engineer who does, he has studied all different kinds of material to make masks out of. He says the best mask is the one that you will wear. You can make one out of a HEPA a vacuum cleaner bag, but it's not going to be very comfortable. That would be the best thing to wear. But no one's going to wear that. So he says cotton, 100% cotton t-shirt material is good because it's comfortable, which reminds me of the buff, which you can make a very serviceable mask out of the buff or just wear it. The cotton was the suggested kind. I made these really simple ones that just have elastic here. Put it around. I don't know if I would be very comfortable running with them, and I made some sock monkey ones for Brennan and Jenny. And but you can make all different kinds, but you can make them out of bandanas. You can make, I think it's the level of material. Like if you use 3 or 4 levels of a thinner cotton, then you're pretty good off. And it doesn't have to be too complicated.
Well, thank you. Next question, Brennan.
Oh, okay. Okay, how to stay motivated when your marathon has been canceled?
That's a big one, and it's a real tough one. How to stay motivated when your marathon or your race has been canceled or postponed a long time away. What you want to do is latch on to another goal of some type. It doesn't have to be another race. It can be a long run. It could be a run with a friend when times open up for that. It could be a run with a friend virtually, where you're deciding to do a certain distance together on a regular schedule to build up your long run distance. But the fact is that whatever motivates you to get out and have some goal in which you're gradually moving towards that goal, you're going to provide yourself with more motivation there. But again, it doesn't have to be a marathon. And there's another question that I will get to about lowering your immune response if you train too hard. So I'm going to not weigh in on that right now. So what's next, Brennan?
Okay, how do you keep your speed up during a virtual race? It seems difficult without competition.
How do you keep your speed up when you're virtually running and you're running a virtual race? Well, there are many issues here. One of them is simply the pacing process. And thank goodness for the GPS devices like the Garmin, because the average pace function is normally quite accurate after the first mile. You may have a little erratic pacing in the first mile, but after that, it becomes really very manageable to monitor your pace. So that's what I recommend for that. Now, if you are finding yourself dropping back in your speed conditioning, there are another couple of questions that I'll get to that relate to that, and I'll explain how you can maintain your speed a little bit better. But the fact is that starting out any race, including a virtual race, at a slower pace provides you with the opportunity to have a negative split. And that is the way that most people run their best times. Next question.
Okay, so this has been asked kind of a few different ways, but what is the best, if you keep, let's say you have to stay in your apartment or a very small area, what's the best thing to do that kind of replicates running?
So if you are locked down in your apartment, what are some things you can do to maintain at least some semblance of shape? Now, the apartment thing there's so many different variations there. But one of the opportunities that I've heard from a lot of folks is to use the hallways. Now, obviously, you got to deal with the 6 feet and maybe more, but there's one guy that I corresponded with last week who used his apartment hallway, and he found that he was waking up in the middle of the night. So he started running between 2 and 3 in the morning. Now, I don't endorse that, but the fact is that nobody ever was out there in the hallway during that time frame. And you need to find some area that you could do even a few steps of running. I know a couple of people that have trained for marathons just running around their living room and so forth. One guy was on a member of our Galloway training program when it was being run out of the embassy in Athens, Greece. And he was sent on special duty down to Yemen during one of their many revolutions. And so there was fighting in the streets just below his hotel room. And it was a day when he was supposed to do his 18-miler. So he pushed the bed away from the wall and he ran loops around his bed. Now he was running a loop and walking a loop. Use your innovation. There are ways that you can do that. And speaking from experience, in that I have run probably 300 or 400 miles now, either inside my house or right out on my patio. And I actually love it because I can get out for 10, 15 minutes at a time, invigorate the rest of the hour as a result of doing that. And so use your innovation, try to find ways of doing that. Next.
Okay, and then other exercises, cross training, strength stuff that you do.
What type of cross training and other strength exercises can you do when you're locked down? Well, the research on health benefits of exercise in general relates primarily to aerobic exercise. And the bottom line is most exercises, when you do them for 30 minutes or more at a time, show that for every hour you exercise, you extend your lifespan by 2 to 3 hours. Now in running, the research tends to show that you extend your lifespan by 7 hours. So we get an extra benefit there. Now, if you're doing intermittent running and walking, maybe it's not a full 7 hours, but you will have a lot of benefit if you just keep doing what you're doing and find some exercises you like to do. Some folks are doing calisthenic type exercises. Some are dialing in and getting apps for jazzercise and some other type of exercise you can get either online or in an app. And there's a lot of stuff out there. So, just take a look at this. Now, in terms of strength, going up and down stairs, if you have that capability, is a great way to gain strength. So you start with a few stairs and you build the number of flights as the weeks go by. And then other weight exercises can help you. One of the ones I found best for postural muscles is what I call arm running. And Brennan did a video of me doing that exercise on YouTube, so you should be able to pull that up. Next question.
Okay, so if you're planning on doing a race in the fall, should you, how to kind of deal with whether it'll happen or not? What is the mental kind of thinking there? And should you train as if it was going to happen or do something different?
If you're training for a race that is scheduled for the fall, but obviously there are no guarantees that it'll happen, how do you train for that? Well, I suggest doing what I did when I was training for Boston during the year right after I made the Olympics. And that was, there were several months when my training was going terribly. And I thought there was no way I was going to be competitive in Boston, and it was expensive to go there and everything. And so I just had this one run when I felt totally miserable. And then I got this epiphany: don't give up. Now, you may not run as fast as you want to, but if you do all the long training runs, you're going to keep your endurance up there. That is the number one ingredient for not only health, but also for running improvement. So just focus on those long ones. And even if you have to walk the long ones, you will get the same endurance. So do the long ones, and then just maintain 30 minutes every other day in between the long ones. That's the bottom line there. Now, if you want to do any more ingredients in the training, as you would see in my books and so forth, then you'll just have to find the venues that allow you to do it. So count back from the date of that race, realizing that you may end up with a virtual run on that race date, but don't give up, and you'll be proud of yourself for sticking with the program. Next.
Okay. Some people and even countries have suggested only running a certain amount and going longer than, let's say, 8 miles compromises your immune system or something like that. Like, comments, thoughts.
So a thought that was posted was a number of authorities have said you really shouldn't run more than 8 miles because it can compromise your immune system. And I'll also want to bring Diana in on this. But the bottom line in the research that I've seen on that is that if you run too far, or you run too many fast runs, or even one fast run that's too long for you, yes, you will compromise your immune system. So during this time when the infections are out there, you want to keep that immune system up at the highest level that you possibly can. So back off anything that you think might leave you exhausted, might leave you with those coughs and sniffles that you have gotten before when you've overdone it. Diana, what is your opinion on that?
I think that is very individual, and there are so many other mitigating factors. If you run 10 miles and feel fantastic and you're getting proper sleep, proper nutrition, your running helps de-stress you and you're overall happier, then you're probably doing yourself a service. If you run 10 miles, but it's compromising your sleep, you're just worried about the run, feeling horrible about it, and you're eating fast food, that's all those things are bad. So I think it'd be hard to say that this is too long. It's very individual. If you feel good and you're otherwise taking care of yourself and you finish that run feeling like, I feel better, I think that's a positive for immune system. But if the run stresses you out, then you do need to modify.
Well, do you agree with me that when a person significantly increases their distance or speed in a very exhausting type of workout, that could lower the immune system? But I hear what you're saying. You're saying when you're within what you have been training, and that gives you joy, I agree with you. That really does not compromise.
Right. I think temporarily you might have, could you be a little bit more susceptible in some certain period of time after a long, difficult run? I think that's entirely possible, but just take care of yourself during that time so you recover adequately.
Good. Thanks. Brendan?
Okay, hydration and fueling during long distance solo running.
Okay, this is a question that I have gotten before during the last couple of weeks, and it's about hydration when you are running a solo run by yourself. And most of the people that I've gotten this question from were used to running with a group where the fluids were being provided there. Also, those who were doing virtual races were used to having this race catering to them and the fluids. And when you do it alone, you've got to provide your own. There are a number of devices that you can carry with you, some belt packs, some handheld things you can carry with you. But one of the safer methods is to have relatively shorter loops that you would do on long runs, and you would come by your house so that you could replenish your fluids, and you wouldn't have to carry too much, if anything, with you. And this is particularly beneficial with the upcoming hot weather in those areas where it is hot. My recommendation for those that are undergoing hot temperatures for long runs is to run a short loop around your house of maybe only 1 to 3 miles, and have an ice chest full of ice water right where you're making the loop. And then as you come by each loop, pour 2 or 3 glasses of ice water over the top of your head and let it soak into your singlet. It is amazing how that can cool you off. But the same is true with having fluids there. You can stay hydrated better if you're controlling your resources. Brennan?
Okay, so a couple magic mile questions, like maybe just in general, magic mile, but also if you don't have access to a track or are on a really hilly course, what do you do?
Magic mile. In every one of my clinics, there are always a few people that are not really sure about all the parameters of the magic mile. So let me go over them really quickly. Magic mile is a time trial that has a lot of data behind it to show what you can predict as your potential during a given season. And so, for example, if you run a 10-minute magic mile, according to our data, that would predict a 13-minute all-out marathon performance if you did all the training. But you've got to do all the long runs, and you have to do all the speed work, the mile repeats, and so forth in order to be up to that standard. But the magic mile starts out with just running a mile as a reference time. In other words, don't worry so much about trying to run fast on the first one. Just get a time. Now, from that point on, your mission is to beat your best time. And as you go through it, you will. And you'll also predict a faster goal time by the end of the season when you do that. Another key element here is that most people who have tried it, both running nonstop and then having some form of a walk break, find that they run faster with some form of a walk break. It's not going to be the same thing you do on long runs by any stretch, but some form of a walk break is probably going to yield a faster time on the magic mile. And then use the predictor that we have on our website. You can go to the computation function, you pull it up by putting in magic mile. And there's a computation function there on our website that can help you compute that. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
I think that right now is a great time to use Jeff Galloway's famous huffing and puffing rule. If you feel like you're breathing hard during a run, dial it back. You know, the magic mile is a great thing when we are in training mode and we're trying to reach for a personal best in a race or something like that. Right now, running is just what's getting us all through this crisis. And so I don't think anybody really needs to be too focused on running fast or running hard. Just enjoy the miles that you're able to get in. So if you can't get to a track, if you can't get someplace to do a magic mile, just run by feel, take your walk breaks often enough that you're not having to huff and puff, and just enjoy the fact that you're able to get out there. There'll be plenty of time for fast running and for predicting your personal bests and all those things once we're all able to get back together and do some races.
And to the point of how you would do a magic mile if you don't have a track, because most tracks are closed now, the GPS devices, Fitbit, things like that, can accurately tell you what you're doing. And I do suggest that you find a way to try to get quarter-mile splits on these, because that helps you pace these magic mile to a better time. Brennan?
Exercise, nutrition, weight loss balance.
Well, I will ask Carissa to come in on this one. The question is, if you want to try to lose a few pounds, how do you balance the exercise and the nutrition? And you don't have to go into an hour-long session on this, but what are your key points, Carissa?
I always say when you try to run a marathon or a half marathon and lose weight, you are at one case trying to serve two masters, because if you're trying to run an hour 30 half marathon or a 3-hour 30 half marathon, your body still requires more fuel because that's an amazing athletic feat. So you've got to balance your carbohydrates, make sure you're including enough of all food groups. And especially right now, it's making sure you're still getting in whole foods with nutrients that are going to support your body's recovery, which is also going to support your body's immunity. So if you are trying to lose weight while you're running, I would say the best thing to do is focus on measuring your portion sizes when you're eating. Also focusing on snacks that are higher in protein for you to help that satiety factor, stable blood glucose. And then again, filling half your plate of every meal with fruits and vegetables and making sure fiber's included. So it really comes down to the quality of what you're eating. We don't want you to cut back your calories so far that you've impacted your body's ability to perform, because that's going to have an impact on your race performance as well as mentally. If every run is a struggle because you don't have the fuel for it, that's going to have a mental consequence sort of down the road. So really focus on the quality of what you're eating and having proper portions, and give yourself a rule. This is a good rule for everybody right now. The chair, table, plate rule, not the standing at the kitchen counter bag of chips rule. So every time you eat, make sure that you have a chair, a table, a plate, you sit down and you're actually enjoying that food instead of just shoveling in your mouth. That's going to cut down on some of those excess calories as well. I know that's a really short answer because it's a broad topic and everybody's body and metabolism is different, but don't forget to be an athlete, which no matter what pace you're running, a mile, 10 miles, 20 miles, that you are an athlete, you need to fuel like one. So try not to cut down your calories too far and focus on the quality of what you're having.
Thank you. Thank you. Brendan?
All right, somebody asked about, this is more general, battling injuries during half marathon training, IT band overuse. How does run, walk, run help with that?
Yeah, the question is about getting injured through previous half marathon training schedules, and how does run, walk, run help prevent that? The concept has two major dimensions. The first one is that according to a wide number of anthropologists that study ancient man, our ancestors did very little running and no distance running because they regularly starved to death, and they weren't about to run long distances and use up their resources so quickly. So they walked everywhere, and they endowed us with the ability to keep going day and night, night and day, literally forever if we got enough food. And so the whole concept here is that running nonstop for long distances is something that our bones and joints and so forth are not designed to do. And something's going to break. And the longer the distance is, the more likely the break is going to be a really bad one. But run, walk, run takes us all away. And it gives you complete control because right from the beginning, you can insert a walk break in a frequency and an amount enough to take away the buildup of stress and to reset the muscle resiliency. And so you keep resetting that with each walk break. And you'll find the amounts of running and walking that we have found best after now having sorted through over 500,000 runners who wanted to know what might work best for them by pace per mile. But we have all of that up on the website. And the book, Run, Walk, Run, is the best resource. You can get that autographed at jeffgalloway.com. I'll be glad to autograph that for you.
So this is also #1 advice for qualifying for Boston.
Qualifying for Boston. The #1 bit of advice is to get my book, Boston, How to Qualify. I mean, obviously I have to say that, but it is truly a resource. It not only has the schedules for all of the standard Boston qualifying standards, but it has the backup information, and including a mile-by-mile description of the Boston course that I gleaned from my friend Bill Rogers. Barb and I drove the course with Bill, and he sort of spilled his guts as to how you should run that course. But it truly gives you the resources, the nutrition, the mental information to help you make that. And one of the best bit of advice that I can give you is that wait it out, because Boston gives you extra time as you get a little older. But anyway, take a look at the standard. The other side of Boston these days is that you have to run faster than the standard in order to get in. So whatever your goal is, you will have to set it a little bit higher. And Chris helps train people for Boston with his Galloway customized training, and I train people also with my e-coaching. The individualization is something that most people tend to benefit from when they're having such an ambitious goal like that. Good question. Brennan?
Quick question of what intervals did you for your last Boston?
What intervals did I use during my last Boston qualifier, which was in 2013? I had not run the Boston qualifying standard for 10 years as of that time, but after the Boston bombing, I wanted to qualify. So I experimented with a wide range of these. I had to maintain a 9:30 pace per mile for the marathon, and I had not run 45 minutes close to that within those 10 years. So I went to work, and I worked hard. I found after numerous trial and errors with my run, walk, run, is that 30 seconds of running and 15 seconds of walking worked best for me. When I ran more than that, I got tireder at the end and slowed down. Another reason for that is one of my e-coach clients just this past week reported in on some research that she did on herself. I have my e-coach clients do a variety of run, walk, run configurations every Tuesday, and then tabulate it regularly to see which ones are working best. And what she discovered is something that I have seen in other studies on this, and that is that as the distance or the amount of the run increases, the cadence slows down. So she was comparing a 30-second run segment with a 45-second run segment. She found that the 45 run segment slowed her cadence down so that she actually ran faster with a 30-second run segment. And I know it's counterintuitive sometimes, but this is not an unusual finding. I've heard this from, at least 3 or 4 dozen people who made those studies. Brendan?
So we'll do one last one for what was it? Well, how to safely increase your stride.
How to safely increase your stride. Don't do it. The studies show very clearly that as distance runners get faster, their stride length shortens, and that those who try to lengthen their stride have more injuries. Their running becomes less efficient, and they are much more tired at the end with slower times. So the studies, again, going back 70 years, show that working on cadence is the way to work on your stride to run faster. And our cadence drill is the best way to do that. So we're just about out of time, but I want to finalize this by saying thank my Team Galloway members here, and thank you for all that you do. We are here, general folks out there, for the town hall to help you. Do not be bashful about that. I am here for you. And take a look at some of our offerings, but those 1-hour classes are going to be fun, and I'd love to see you on those too. I also want to give a shout out to all the Galloway training program members. We've got a lot of them tuning in today, and the programs have just started to kick off. A lot of our kickoffs have been virtual so far, obviously, but they've gotten really good turnouts. So we could very well have a banner year in number of folks in our program. Looking forward to that.
Like how to bring others into running at this kind of at this stage.
How to bring others into running now. First of all, reaching out to folks that you know would benefit. Maybe they dropped out of running for a while, or maybe they never have been into it, but have gotten into a little walking. Now, being a mentor is a big responsibility, but it works. And one of the key things you can do is either do a virtual run, or once you are able to get back and do a run with that person, to do that, because the person-to-person contact is very powerful, and it really does tend to create runners that continue to do that. And then other things that you can do is work with them to set up a schedule, just as you need to have a schedule, and have the tools to give them that they need. It may be one of my books like Getting Started, or a woman's guide to running. But these types of gifts keep on giving. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me from jeffgalloway.com. There's a free email service there. And I just look forward to hearing from you, because you're going to get a whole lot more out of it than your newbie gets out of it. Helping someone is an amazing experience.
Yeah, any other like final thoughts or?
Does anybody have any final thoughts here? I just want to thank everybody for coming. We will look into other town halls, but I really want each one of you to experience the joy of running every single time that you can do it. So stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you many, many times as we open up our running society again.
Go ahead and stop yours.